after talking about perimeter, it's natural to move to area. We'll be talking about area of squares and rectangles. So just a quick review, remember that perimeter, right, that's the distance around something, and the formula is 2L plus 2W. So that's if you have a rectangle, for example, right, and you just add all of these sides together, and that gives you the perimeter. Well, for area, so as you can see here, the formula is length times width. So what we're looking for area, I'll draw my rectangle again, and this formula is for rectangles and squares. The area is the part on the inside. So envision for perimeter, like if you have a garden, right, and there's a border around the outside of the garden, wood or concrete, that is your perimeter. The area is the part that has all the dirt and the vegetables and whatever's in that garden, right? So that's kind of the floor. That's also the case like in a kitchen, which you're going to see some examples using a kitchen, but that would be the size of the floor of the kitchen, right? Perimeter is the walls, like the lengths of the walls. Area is the size of the floor. Okay, so as always, when we read the problem, we want to write the formula down that we're going to need. So it says here, find the area. So a living room is 15 feet by 10 feet. What is the area of the floor? Okay, so since we're dealing with squares and rectangles, right, we know that the formula for the area of a rectangle or a square is length times width. Now the sides are different lengths, so that tells me this is a rectangle, which mathematically doesn't actually change the process, right? But just something to keep in mind. So I'm going to draw my rectangle. I have 15 feet equals my length, and 10 feet equals my width. And now I can substitute in and solve for area. So I get area equals 15 times 10, and that gives me 150. Just like with perimeter, you have to include your units. Now, area units are squared. And I suggest when you think about units, think about how many things are being multiplied together. Okay, so when we talked about having, here's an example, like 2 times 2, right? That's 4. You also have a common base, and so that can be written as 2 squared. So basically, I see it as, well, we're multiplying two things together. We need to take that into account by putting the square. That's one thing that my brain does, which sometimes can be a scary thing to know, but in this case, I find it quite helpful. Okay, so the area of the floor is 150 feet squared. All right, so for the next one, if flooring costs $11 per square feet, so notice this unit, right, of square feet, that means that that is an area measurement. So every 1 foot squared costs $11. How much does it cost to replace the flooring in the room? Well, that means $11 for 1 square foot, right? $22 for 2 square feet, and so forth. So once again, this is a perfect example of repeated addition, which means we can use multiplication. So if we have 150, right, feet squared, that's the area of the floor, and we multiply it by 11, that is going to give us the cost, right? And so we get $, because we've got to have that unit, $1,650. And that is your final answer. Okay, so for number 2, we have the area of a yard is 200 feet square. If the length of the yard is 20 feet, what is the width? What is the perimeter of the yard? Okay, so we're dealing with squares and rectangles, right? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my yard. I know that the area, so the part inside, is 200 feet squared, right? The length is 20 feet, and we're looking for the width. But also notice we're looking for the perimeter. So just to remind myself, I'm going to put this formula up here. I'm not ready to use it yet, but it's going to remind me that I do need to use that. So really there are two problems here. One is find the missing side, use the missing side to find the perimeter. Each question mark denotes a question that you need to find an answer for. So that's kind of a quick way to identify how many things are you trying to find. Okay, so let's see. So the area, right, is for a rectangle or square is A equals length times width. So once I have both formulas and my picture drawn, I'm ready to start solving. So I'm given my area, which is 200, equals, if the length of the yard is 20 feet, so we've been given length and we're finding width. So width will be the variable that's remaining. I substitute the 20 in for the L, and now I'm ready to solve. So I divide both sides by 20, divide by 20, and I get 10 feet equals W. Now, because I found the length of a side, that is a singular unit. It's not squared. If I found the area, then the unit would be squared. So this is the answer for the first question. So now I need to come up here to my perimeter, which I don't know my perimeter, but I do know now my length and my width. Okay, so length is what was given. Width is what I found. And so now I follow the process for finding perimeter. So P equals 40 plus 20. P equals 60. And again, there's no multiplying. You're not multiplying the sides together. So it is a singular unit. So the perimeter is 60 feet. Okay, how about the next one? So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and work through this problem. Turn the video back on and watch me go through it with you. And remember, anytime with these videos, when you try something, go back and check it. Make sure that you've done it correctly. But if you didn't, if there was a mistake, you repeat that same problem until you can do it without looking. And once you've gone through the video, you can go back and redo that on any of these. They're great review as you prepare for exams and finals and everything. So, okay, we have the area of the floor of a kitchen is 400 feet squared. So I have area and 400 feet squared. Okay, so I know that the area of a rectangle or a square is A equals length times width. If the width of the kitchen is 16 feet, okay, so width equals 16. What is the length? So L is what we're trying to find. I'll go ahead and draw my picture just to kind of get started here. So area is 400 feet squared. My width is 16, and my length is something I don't know. And then it says, if tile flooring costs $7 per square foot, how much does new flooring cost for the kitchen? 2 question marks, 2 questions to answer. So I'm going to have 2 answers when I'm done with this. Okay, so I'm going to take my area formula. They've given me my area, so 400, right? This goes in here, equals, Now, because of the commutative property, the order, whether I do length times width or width times length, it doesn't change the problem. So because we put numbers in front of variables, it makes them the coefficients. I'm going to go ahead and put 16L. All right, so now I am going to go ahead and divide by 16, right? So now I'm left with L by itself, which is what I'm looking for. And 400 divided by 16 is 25 feet. Again, a singular unit because it's a length, same as if it were a width. The only time we'll have a squared unit is if you've solved for area. So that took care of the first question mark, right? The second one is if tile flooring costs $7 per square foot, how much does new flooring cost for the kitchen? Well, the unit of the cost is square feet. So the number that I need to work with also has to be in square feet. So we were actually given the area to start, right? The kitchen is 400 square feet. Well, for one of those, it costs $7. For two, it costs $14. 3, it's $21, right? And so on and so forth. So there's that pattern of repeated addition. Repeated addition means you can multiply. So we have a total of 400 square feet times the cost per square feet, right? And so now we go ahead and we run that multiplication, and it's a cost. So our answer has to have a dollar sign, and it's $2,800. Okay, so in this case, notice we were already given the total area, so we didn't actually have to calculate anything for that. We could have started with the 400 times the 7, right? It's a good illustration that sometimes you are given the answer or the number that you need for a question that is in the future, right? For a layered question like this. So just be aware of that, right? Often you'll need to solve for everything, but every once in a while you don't. Now, if you forgot that, that's okay, right? Because once you got your length, right, which was 25, you just go ahead and substitute those into the area equation and get 400. It's also how you would check your answer. So, all right, great job.